Hello and welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from the Southern Command Post of the X Zone Broadcast Network in beautiful Vero Beach and Fellsmere, Florida. And folks, I'm excited to be back on the air with all of you to discuss our passion researching and investigating the paranormal. So join us on this quest as we search for those answers of what's really on the other side. And tonight, really pleased to have a guest that's going to help us on this journey, Daniel Duchaneaux from Ghost Hunters of Ottawa for Scientific Truth, acronym GHOST. After having multiple unexplained experiences as a child, teen, and adult, Dan began to study different philosophies, belief systems, and religions in order to find the answers. This led him to become even more interested in the paranormal world. Experimenting with seances, talking boards, and remote writing and other paranormal theories, his interest grew even further. In 2002, he moved into a home with extensive paranormal activity, and this further developed his need to find the answers to this age-old mystery. He wanted to expand his work and his knowledge, so in 2010, he founded GHOST to do just that. Dan's website is www.ghost-canada.com, and you can find him on Facebook at Ghost Canada. Dan Duchaneaux, welcome to Paranormal Stakeout, my friend.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks for having me here.
And so how is everything up with our brothers up north of the border?
Well, this time of year, it's getting a little colder, but probably a lot colder than Florida, I guess. But,
hey, we're having a cold spell right now. We only got up to 88 today. So
only the 88. Okay, I'm moving in with you then.
Well, I appreciate you being with us tonight, and you've got an interesting story that really is similar to a lot of us that got into the field. But I'd like to hear some of your early experiences in life that got you interested in the field. Can you share that with us?
Well, I mean, I had a couple of weird experiences when I was younger. I think I had mentioned that before. There was one time I lived in Lowertown, and I had a basketball net that was attached to the garage, and the neighboring property had like an open field, and somehow the ball bounced over the fence. So me and my cousin went on the other side to get the ball, but before we got to the other side, the ball bounced back. When we got to the field, nobody was there. Unless they're Superman, they can't run away that fast. So I was kind of wondering why that ball would just suddenly bounce back over the fence by itself. And it had been on the other side for a while, so it's not like it went over the fence, bounced, and came back. So that was I would say that would be my first weird experience as a child. And I went, well, that was kind of weird. And I was probably around, I'd say, 12 years old or so.
Mm-hmm. Time grew. You had other experiences, and you began to look into other ways to explain these experiences. What did you explore? What areas did you look into?
I started studying different religions, different philosophies, started studying the paranormal, and it's something I've always been interested in, even at that young age of 12. As I got older as an adult, the interest got bigger, obviously, and especially after that house I moved in, it got even more complex and even more intense after the experiences I had.
So, you moved into this house in 2002. Did you know it was haunted when you moved in, or was it a total surprise?
It was a total surprise. I had no clue. I had never had any kind of experiences like that before, not to that extent anyways. And it really, really threw me for a loop.
What kind of experiences?
I had... I'm talking like stuff moving, flying off shelves. I saw one apparition of a man in my staircase. I did see a figure walk behind me. I saw the reflection of the figure in the living room window, which was crossing across in the kitchen. Now, I've never done drugs, so I know I wasn't high on anything that night. But I do know I saw something walk behind me. And I actually had candle holders fly off the shelves, and I'm not talking just fall off the shelves. They went flying like as if something actually took it and threw it.
Yeah, that's what we call in law enforcement a clue.
That would be a big clue, yeah.
Yeah. So how long did this go on before you really started delving into what was going on in that house?
It went on for weeks. I had friends come over. We tried all sorts of different things. That's when a lot of the experimenting with the Ouija boards and the seances to see if we could sum up something and to find out what might be going on in the house. And that was kind of cool. We had some weird experiences, but of course, I mean, experiences is like a credible sign of the paranormal. We don't know. So as the years went on, I wanted to find something a little bit more scientific, a little more concrete to validate the experiences I had in that house.
And is that when you first developed G.H.O.S.T?
Absolutely. That's when I actually said, I would love to delve into this a little bit more, trying to take more of a scientific approach, skeptical approach, and be a little bit more critical minded about it. And that's when it started in 2010.
Well, you obviously had some very personal experiences there. A lot of folks, when that happens, they'll continue to take, frankly, an emotional view of the whole thing. What made you want to look at it from a more scientific standpoint?
Well, I mean, it's even hard to take a look at it from a scientific standpoint, because we still to this day try to figure out like what kind of equipment could prove the existence of the paranormal. I knew that Ouija board and holding seances, there probably was not a lot of credibility behind that. So trying to take a more scientific approach was like the next step forward.
Okay. Well, what do you think this phenomenon is? And where do you see us heading in a scientific way? I mean, what's your thoughts there?
If I had all the answers, Larry, I wouldn't even be doing this right now. I don't have all the answers. I don't think anybody has all the answers. I think that's why a lot of us do this is to try to find an explanation, some kind of validation for some of the experiences a lot of people have, including ourselves as investigators. And it's very hard to say where it's going to go. I mean, I don't really know what it is.
There's the question. Do we really know what it is? Do you have a personal philosophy, what you think this phenomenon is at all?
Oh, of course. Everybody has their own personal philosophies. I mean, if I'm to tell you the truth of what my beliefs are, which I keep very separated from my investigating, is that I truly believe there is that our energy carries on after we pass away. I believe there is something after our death, but again, that's my personal belief. And the question is, do we linger in between the living and the dying? And is it possible that we can haunt the living? That's the question. I have a belief that there's something after. I'm trying to find out if we can actually stick around after we pass away.
Yeah, and that's the question we all have. And I got to tell you, I kind of have the same view that you do, but the problem is, how do you prove it? I mean, you've seen things occur. You've seen things happen in your house. Yeah. But how the heck do you prove it to somebody? You know what happened. You know you weren't on drugs or drinking. You know what happened, but we can't prove it. And that seems to be our stumbling block that we can't get past.
Well, I think the only ways there's only two avenues that we can take to either try to prove it. It's either audio or visual. A picture doesn't lie. If I have a video and I see something floating across my room, that's evidence of the paranormal. Doesn't mean it's the soul of somebody who's passed on, but it is paranormal. If it goes against the laws of physics, it's paranormal. So video is one way. Audio, of course. If you're in a very controlled scientific environment like that, and that's what science is about being in a very controlled environment. And you know exactly which people are present, and everybody's quiet, and you actually catch a voice on audio, and nobody said a word at that time. Well, where is that other voice coming from? So audio and video would be probably the two major forms of media that we can try to prove if there's an existence of the paranormal or even life after death. As far as EMF meters and everything else, okay, that's all unproven. It's not proven scientifically that it works, but audio, video, to me, doesn't lie.
Instrumental transcommunication is the favorite term now. I agree with you. And you're an audio engineer by trade, correct? Do I have that right?
No, by trade. I took a course when I was in the 80s, but that's not by trade. I'm a carpenter by trade. I do
okay.
And I'm actually studying to be a home inspector. So that's my trade. But I did take a course when I was back in the 80s in sound engineering. But we know today with all the technology, the way it changes, it's all digital now. It's nothing compared to what I went to school for. So it's very different. So, but I still have a background in audio engineering and sound.
Gotcha. And I agree. I think ITC is definitely the route to take for the future, and that's what our group particularly is focusing on evidence found in that area. Training. When you first got into this? Are you self-taught? Did you take any training?
I don't think there's any form of training out there that's legit, because you don't really know, Larry, what works and what doesn't. So I don't know somebody can actually train somebody to investigate the paranormal. All we can do is tell people that how we do things and what's possibly worked for us. That's the only thing we can do. So no, I've never done any training. I don't think anybody ever has done any training in this. I think a lot of it is experiences that you go through. And just studying the subject for so long, you start to get to know things a little bit more.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about training when we come back on the other side. I've got Daniel Duchaneaux of G.H.O.S.T out of Ottawa, Canada. Stick with us, folks, for our next segment. I think you'll enjoy it. Paranormal Stakeout. We'll be right back.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
And we are back on Paranormal Stakeout with my guest tonight, Daniel Duchaneaux from Ghost Hunters of Ottawa for Scientific Truth, otherwise known as G.H.O.S.T. And Daniel, before the last break, we were talking a little bit about training, and I want to talk a little bit more about that because I kind of disagree with you a little bit, and this comes from my my law enforcement background. Now, I do agree with you that we are so far behind with the development of appropriate equipment. In your work as a home inspector, you know darn well most of our equipment is the same thing that a lot of times home inspectors use to find wires and walls. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so that can throw off all kinds of false readings. But I do think training can be important, and there's not a lot of it out there. So very few people, if any, have a lot of training. But I do think that we can work on developing people's skills with interviewing, i.e. talking to clients beforehand, understanding the proper collection, preservation of evidence, and also being a little bit more skeptical when viewing evidence. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you go finish up there, Larry.
No, it's just the equipment is where I kind of have my my stumbling block. We just haven't done enough to develop things that we can use. It's all the same stuff we've been using for 20 years. I mean, K2 meters have been out for how long now? And a great way to maybe find an anomaly, but it doesn't give you any of that hard, tangible evidence that me, as a cop, I'm looking for. So I see what you're saying, but I do think we can train people to become a little bit more astute in their investigations. Just my thought.
I actually agree with you on that one, Larry. I think I don't think there's any kind of formal training. You can't go to ghost school or paranormal investigative school, but I do think there's a way to train people, especially if you're going to take more an investigative and scientific approach to it. Science is about having a controlled environment. So a lot of people, investigate, they don't have that controlled environment. So yes, there are probably things aside from the equipment that we could probably teach people with our experience, that part of investigating the paranormal is about being an investigator, trying to debunk certain things, like you being in law enforcement or me in home inspections. It's the same kind of process, the process of elimination. So again, having that control environment is something that we could teach people. So I see this maybe as a future thing for paranormal investigations. If we're going to teach people how to investigate, I think the big portion would be to have a controlled environment. So that way you can reduce contamination. So yes, training is possible. I just don't think there's anything available out there right now.
Well, there are actually, I actually have done some training myself. I have put on a class down here and helping folks understand what it is to investigate the paranormal. We did it down here. I'm planning another class in December. But most of it is philosophy-based. Most of it is technique-based and an introduction to equipment. So that's the direction we're going now, getting people in the right frame of mind to understand what this really is. Mm-hmm. But that equipment issue go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I think that's certainly the right direction to be going in for sure.
Do you have any thoughts on developing techniques, protocols, framework, so that teams don't do things exactly the same, but like if I'm investigating a homicide and I'm doing it down here in Florida, essentially they're going to do it the same way in California. I mean, there'll be different laws and certainly different procedures they have to follow, but the framework is essentially the same. Do you see that as being something we can do in the paranormal field to get a more cohesive type of investigation and evidence? Do you think that's possible?
Actually, I think it is. Excuse me. I think it is possible, Larry, and I think that to have that one kind of a base that we could all follow as far as procedures and the techniques that we use, and come to an agreement of how paranormal investigations should be conducted. I think that's really a possibility.
If we can get past all the egos, that is, right?
Yes, and we do know that in the with so many teams out there, there's millions of them. They're all over the world. There's definitely egos. There's competition. Competition is a very sad thing, but that's something that's definitely going on in the paranormal field right now. It's so competitive of who's going to get the next location, who's going to get the next asylum, let's say, and of course we all want to investigate these places because we have that need to find out to find concrete evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that comes that we had it in law enforcement for many years, and it's my case. I don't want to share it with anybody, and we get the same problem in the paranormal field. And I'm hoping with our work down here with Para-Unity, as we call it, that can hopefully change. And I'd sure like to talk with you, our brothers and sisters up there in Canada, a little bit more about that. So tell me a little bit about your team. How many folks you got? What do they? How many? What do you consist of as far as backgrounds? A little bit about G.H.O.S.T.
Our team is I've had such a high turnaround with this team because I am extremely picky on who I let into the team. We have right now. I have a bit of a background in sound engineering. I've studied management in school, which gives me the ability to manage the team and control the team in a good fashion. Taylor has been into the paranormal since she was a kid, so she's read a lot of books on parapsychology. Colin and Adam just graduated from college in videography and photography, so they know a lot about cameras. They know everything about cameras and audio, for that matter. And Tracy, which is our admin, she's been doing administrative work for plenty of locations and actually some other teams also. So I'm very picky, and we actually just lately we've been trying to get some new people in, and we've had some good responses, and a lot of these people have a very large backgrounds as far as the paranormal, as far as their skills and the talents that they have. So, but right now we're probably about 6 full-time investigators as far as a team, but we're looking to expand.
Okay, so you got a good solid team of good core folks. You bring somebody in new, and I've got a lot of listeners out there that either are on teams, they're wanting to join a team, or even start their own team. So you bring somebody new into your group. Do you what do you expect from them? What do you offer them as far as orientation? If somebody was to come in new.
It's a whole process. First, we have an application on our website which they have to fill in, which mentions a lot of our strict requirements to join our team, and then they fill up the application. We first get in touch with them. I usually do a phone interview with them at first, and if I feel that if somebody could fit into our team, we then move forward with a full interview with the whole team. We sit down with them, we find out, we get to know this person, find out what their talents, their skills, their weaknesses are, and then we finally make a decision whether we want them to come into the team or not. They go on a 90-day probation, which means we, for 90 days, just like any other job, I actually treat G.H.O.S.T like it was a business. So they go on 90 days, and we figure out whether or not they can fit in during those 90 days. If they do, then they sign our member agreement, and they become a full-fledged member of the team.
Now, that's one thing that worries me with folks coming in, though, backgrounds. Are you able to do much of a background? Obviously, I just ran into an individual recently that gave me a line of what they were about and what was in their past, and rather embellished little story. Did some checking to find out that, frankly, they flat out lied to me. And obviously, I don't want somebody like that as part of, or I don't want my group to be part of anybody like that. Have you run into that at all yourself?
Yes, we have, and that's the whole point of the 90 days, is to find out if the skills that they supposedly have are real or not, and if they could fit into the team. So that's the whole point of the 90 days, is to get to know this person and to get to know their skill set.
And do you do any kind of background check on them, like a criminal history, anything like that at all?
At this point, we don't, but that's definitely something that I want to do in the very near future.
And I've talked to other groups along those same lines, and that does concern me, because you go into folks' homes. I note that you, like a lot of us, we offer to help folks out, no charge, of course, but we go into people's homes. we certainly don't want to bring somebody in that has a background of theft or burglary.
No.
That's something that worries me quite a bit. And I don't think we do enough of that in the field, too, is to vet our new folks. And it's tough. There's no doubt about it. It's tough. So that's something we're working on ourselves. Go ahead.
Well, definitely something we want to get into also, Larry, because I think it's, as you said, we're going into people's homes. We're going into locations. We did the Bullock House in Gananoque. And this is an antique house. It's an old house. There's probably a lot of the owners have stuff. So we don't want people to steal anything. So of course we monitor. Of course the whole place is monitored with cameras also.
Sure.
But yes, you're absolutely right. We don't want to end up in a situation where an owner or a place says, "Well, listen, we had this and this is now missing." Yeah,
and just one of those many things that, you're an administrator of your team as I am, and it's just those type of things that we have to worry about, unfortunately, in this crazy world of ours. I notice you also do a lot of events. Is that correct?
We do some events. We try to stay away from it as much as possible. And I think this is something that's going on right now in the paranormal field, is a lot of teams are concentrating a lot on doing events as opposed to doing investigations. Events are good because, we don't get paid for our services. We don't charge any clients for any kind of fees for our services. But of course, we'd like to get, if a camera breaks, we need to buy a new one. We need to buy some wires. So we do events and workshops and little things to help raise the funds. The funds go in the team, and we use that to buy whatever equipment we need. So
my group's My group's the same way, and I got another side to that I want to bring up too, but we're about ready to take our second break. Didn't mean to cut you off, my friend. But folks, I have Daniel Duchaneaux from G.H.O.S.T out of Ottawa, Canada with us, so stick with us. We'll be back in just a couple minutes after this very, very important break. This is Paranormal Stakeout.
Our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond. You're watching the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world, interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
And we are back for round 3 of Paranormal Stakeout tonight with my guest, Daniel Duchaneaux from Ghost Hunters of Ottawa for Scientific Truth. Website www.ghost-canada.com. Dan, as we were chatting before, we're having a kind of a good conversation on events. And I agree with you. We do events ourselves, kind of our my team, the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation, has what I call the outreach arm, which is Indian River Hauntings, and we do events a lot for the same reasons you do. But I have another philosophy that goes with that too, and that's trying to teach people the right way. And our events are fairly limited in number, and we try to spend a lot of time. We do presentations on proper respect, proper technique, proper evidence collection. And I think that's an important part of doing these events too, is teaching the public or people that may want to do this more often or even become involved with the team the right way to do it. At least that's how we're looking at it.
I totally agree with you on that one also, Larry. When we hold an event, either for a public investigation or an event, sometimes what we'll do is we'll have a draw. We'll sell tickets, draw tickets, and the winners will maybe announce 3 winners, and those winners will attend an investigation with us. Of course, when they attend the investigation, we teach them our methods, our techniques, how to be critical, how to gather evidence, how to reduce contamination. So, yes, it's a way of actually teaching people how to properly investigate based on our methods. Doesn't mean that our methods are the only way possible, but it's how we do it. So, yes, it is a good way to actually inform people on the paranormal and how proper investigations should be conducted.
And you hit it right on the head, too. My way may not be exactly how you do it, but I guarantee if we looked at the structures, they're basically the same. 2 people can conduct interviews, for example, a little bit differently, but the structure is still the same. And I think that's what's important too. I've talked to some folks that have really gotten hung up on, well, there shouldn't be anything formalized because we all do stuff differently. We do, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. I mean, there's no one set way of investigating, but there are certain base principles that every group should abide by because let's say contamination, having a controlled environment, the way to gather evidence. You can say that there's a right way to do it. The techniques that people use, techniques you can do. Anything's viable at this point. As we said, the equipment that we use is not 100% fail-proof, and we don't really know if it detects paranormal activity. But the gathering of evidence and the way an investigation is conducted, that you can have a base that a lot of teams could follow.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the events, or maybe even groups that go into help, and I put that in quotations, folks. Another concern that I have, and I'd like to get your view on this, are folks that make promises they can't keep or are not qualified to keep, if that makes sense, i.e., we can cross somebody over that's haunting your house.
No, we don't do any of that stuff.
Nor do we.
Yeah, no. Crossing somebody over, we'd have to prove that somebody's there in the first place. And we present our findings to the clients, give them our opinion based on our experience as investigators, and they need to come to their own conclusions. And if they want to seek help on the outside, if they believe, based on what you've told me, I have the feeling my house is haunted or I need an exorcism or something like that, they can go to their local church or priest to do that, but we don't exercise ghosts or demons out of homes. It's just not what we do. We go in, we research, we document, we show our findings, and we give them our opinion, and they can come to their own conclusions.
And looking at your website and checking out what you do, you guys are great about that. But what worries me is the industry itself is filling with people that are making those promises they can't keep. Do you think that's hurting us?
I think it's hurting us tremendously. I mean, I think a lot of groups may use that as a way to get into certain locations by saying, okay, well, whatever we find, we'll get rid of for you. I think it's definitely hurting the industry of the paranormal field for sure.
It's hurting our credibility. Any thoughts on how in the world we can stop this, or how we can control this or police it?
We just keep doing what we're doing, Larry. I think me and you are on the same page. We just keep doing what we do, and hopefully that'll catch on. And I'm seeing a trend right now where a lot of people, there's a lot of ghost shows on TV, and there's a couple of really popular ones. And I think a lot of people are starting to steer away from that. They want something that's a little bit more real, kind of like a reality kind of thing, where this is what investigating is. It's not all fun and games. It's long, can be boring. It's long hours. It's hard work. It's not what you see on television. So I see a trend that's what people are looking for now.
And that's exactly where I want to go. I want to take the charlatans out of the picture, the folks that are wanting to make the quick buck out of playing on somebody's sympathies, feelings, or pain, and start showing folks the right way to do this if we're ever going to find out what the answer to this. And I see that as that route being a way to structure, how to put this, to create a formal organization, if you will, somebody to oversee it, and that can stop the charlatans from going out there and portraying themselves as something they're not and hurting all of us. That's kind of like, I'm saying.
Kind of like a union for ghost investigators.
Okay, well, I don't know that I'd use union, but yeah, I see your point's well taken. Because there's got to be a way we can police ourselves. And until we start doing that, until we all start taking it seriously enough that we want to police ourselves, this stuff's going to continue. And that concerns me because that's hurting the credibility for all of us.
Exactly. And I tend to really agree with you with that one, Larry, for sure.
Well, then I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you to join me in this little crusade to create this type of atmosphere, this direction in our field. So I'm going to ask you to join me on that, my friend, because I think it can be done, and I think it's important that we all work towards that.
You have my absolute support.
Outstanding. TV shows. What are your thoughts on the TV shows? I know you said it just a second ago, how people are starting to steer away from it. But I'm interested in your... Go ahead.
I think it's just so saturated right now. I mean, I've watched all the TV shows. I'm a fan of a couple of them. But, is it really paranormal investigating? The shows are nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd like to have my own show, but I would like a reality show. It's a show that's what we do a lot of on our page. We broadcast our investigations live. So you see it as it is. This is what we're doing. You see, there's nothing hidden. There's no big camera crew. I mean, our crew has some really good equipment, but there's no hidden camera crew in the background. It's just real investigating, and we try to show people exactly what we do. So it would be different from what you see as the edited version that we see on television.
Well, yeah, because that's for entertainment, and folks tend to forget that. There's a show that I won't mention in law enforcement that drives me crazy because people watch it and they say that's what I want to do, and they don't realize it's entertainment. That's not reality. But I do think the TV shows, and a lot of folks in the field do disagree with me a little bit on this. The TV shows, I think, did help in the beginning. Why? Because it made what we're doing more mainstream, and folks that do take it seriously. And began taking it seriously after watching the shows, and it was fun, and then started looking into it a little more deeply. I think TV did help bring it to the mainstream. Now we just got to reel it in a little bit and make folks realize, or help folks realize, that it's entertainment on TV, and that's not the total reality. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. I think the TV shows actually, yes, they brought the paranormal field into the mainstream, and people started noticing it a little bit more. But I think at one point it just got out of hand. Now it's given us a chance to kind of streamline it and tweak it a little bit more, so that way people know exactly what it's really about. And it's the shows are good. The shows need the ratings. If they didn't have any ratings, the show wouldn't exist. So they have to do things to get ratings, of course. But I think it did help us to get into mainstream and people actually seeing what there's actual real investigators out there
that are doing real work, and that's kind of where we're heading right now. I mean, one of the things I talk about is, you start one of these, your group, and you enjoy the weekend jaunts, and you get a thrill and an adrenaline rush with the footsteps or the EVP, which we all still get. I'm not going to deny that. But it comes after a while. I mean, it's the same thing. So when are we going to take the next step and start finding out what it is that's causing this? What it is that, where's this coming from? Not just, oh, look, I heard the voice. But what does that voice mean? How did we hear it? And that's where we're heading as a group.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page on that one, because, I mean, of course, I love the thrill of going into a location.
We all do.
And like an asylum. Of course, an asylum is like one of the key places, because we do know there was so much trauma and so many things that happen in these places. And of course, we want to actually experience something. I did in the past. I experienced it. Was I crazy about it at the time? Well, I was a little bit kind of frightened, actually, to tell you the truth. But it's that's what we want. We want that experience.
Well, we all do. That's where it all begins, but it's got to develop into something more important. Well, we're going to go to our next break, Dan. Folks, stay with us. We've got one more section for Paranormal Stakeout. So stick with us. Got some more interesting things to talk about. We'll be with you right after this last break. Stay with us, folks.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
And we are back for our final segment tonight on Paranormal Stakeout. I have Dan Duchaneaux from Ghost Hunters of Ottawa for Scientific Truth, otherwise known as G.H.O.S.T, out of Ottawa, Canada. Really glad to have you with us here tonight, Dan. But I also want to tell everybody that we've got a lot of great programming on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, so I'd invite you to go to our website, www.xzbn.net, to check out all the terrific programming on the network, including me. I'd like you to listen in on my show, and you can find me also on our website or email at www.paranormalstakeout.com. Want to remind you also about Daniel. His website is www.ghost-canada.com, and you can find him on Facebook on Ghost Canada. My team is www.paranormalfbi.com, and you can find us on Paranormal FBI on Facebook. Also, Daniel, our last round for tonight.
Yes.
Kind of wanted to save the best for last here, because these are the questions that everybody wants to know. How many investigations do you think you and your group has done over the years?
Oh, it's hard to say. We haven't done hundreds of investigations, because any team that says they've done hundreds and hundreds of investigations, that's not true. I mean, investigations, unless you've been doing investigations for about 30 years, it's not like you get an investigation every month. You know, you'll get the occasional call, somebody's having problems at their house, or we'll do some research and find out that a location has reports of paranormal activity. You know, you don't get hundreds of investigations. I would say safely we've probably done about between 50 and 100, but not 100 investigations.
Okay, well, hey, I totally get it. And you also work for a living, so that doesn't mean you're
well,
you're
yeah,
out every night.
I work full time, so it's not like I do this. I don't get paid to investigate. For me, it's like going golfing. It's my pastime. It's my passion. It's like somebody who likes to play hockey, basketball, or anything else. I like to chase ghosts. That's what I like. That I like to do paranormal investigations, and because I have a passion for it. So I can't be doing this full time because there's no pay in it.
And most of us do that. Most of us investigate, and we don't charge clients anything. But I've heard some talk recently. I'd like your opinion on this about, because it does take gas money to drive to a spot and to buy equipment. Some folks have actually talked about charging for investigations. What's your thought on that?
I would never charge for an investigation ever. Again, like we talked earlier, I feel like it's taking advantage of somebody's situation and saying, okay, you're in trouble and we'll help you if you give us this amount of money.
Yeah.
My actual reward is actually helping people. It's actually going in there and actually finding out if I do catch something, that for me is payment. If I catch something in that location, for me, that's like the holy grail. It's worth more than any amount of money. And again, it's about taking advantage of people. I mean, I don't have an issue saying, okay, we're going to hold a workshop, or we're going to give some draw tickets if you want to attend an investigation, or we'll do a public investigation. We charge people. That's the way we're going to fund the team. But we'll never charge a client or somebody who's potentially, having trouble any kind of fees. I guess it's left to the team's discretion. I mean, I disagree with charging a client, but if teams want to do it, and if that affects their credibility, well, that's something they'll have to live with in the future.
They got to deal with. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I'm totally on par with you here, because I worry about credibility too, and people going into somebody's home and taking advantage of them in their time of need. How many times have you been contacted by someone who said my spouse, my relative just passed away, and I think they're here. Can you help me locate them? And you're really preying on their emotions, and that worries me about the
Yes.
field, and I'm a little worried about it going in that direction. What's your most significant investigation? Maybe where you were able to really help somebody. Do you have one that comes to mind?
Well, it's the one that would come to mind the most was a person, without giving out any names, because we do have a very strict confidentiality agreement with clients.
Mm-hmm.
There was one person out in a place in the Quebec side where it's pretty much very secluded. This person had lost his job. He had got divorced, lost his home. Like it just a lot of stuff just happened, and he ended up, when he lost his home, his boss gave him a house out in Mont-Tremblant in the middle of nowhere, and he was there, called us saying he was experiencing stuff. But as we got there, we noticed that he had a drinking problem. We did some research on the person, of course. And we saw there was a lot of factors involved on why he might be seeing stuff. So we did kind of help him out. We actually asked him if it would help him. Would he want a reference to be referenced to somebody who might be able to cleanse his house? We don't do it ourselves. So we got him in contact with somebody who was Native American. They did a smudging in his home, and we did a follow-up with him after. Said, okay, how's it going? How are you feeling? So we follow up after, and he said, oh, everything's good now. I feel much better. And so we helped him in a way to kind of subdue the situation he was in. Unfortunately, we didn't find anything paranormal going on in his place, but we were capable of putting his concerns at ease, more or less.
And that brings up a great question. And one thing that we look at, and obviously you do also, folks may be experiencing things that they think are paranormal, but are really the result of certain stressors or activities in their own life. You do check that out. You do a background on your client to find out what's going on with them.
As much as we can within legal means, of course. We try to, but that's why we do a preliminary investigation. We try to have a sit down with them, get to get a feel for them, and see what their mental state is, what's possibly going on in their lives that might be affecting or making them think they see stuff. There's investigating is not just about showing up at a place one night with some equipment, setting up some cameras, sitting in the dark for like 12 hours, and then leaving and saying, the house is either haunted or not. There's a lot of preliminary research that goes into it, researching the location, researching the clients, having meetings with them prior to the investigation to find out their mental states, what kind of situation are they willing to share with us that might be going on in their life. So, and then we do follow-ups with them after. We'll follow up to make sure, if you ever have any concerns, you contact us. If things are still going on, contact us anytime. With us, the door is never closed.
And that's an excellent philosophy. I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, checking to make sure that we know what's going on in that place is very important, as well as its history. Scariest. What's the scariest event you've ever had in one of your investigations?
I'm not really sure I want to share that, but
fair enough.
If I tell you really quick, it was more of a personal experience. Somebody who was at that investigation, I won't say if it's a person of our group or anybody else, but somebody that was at that investigation actually, I'm not even going to say possessed, but they started acting extremely strange, and it actually scared the crap out of the whole team, because this person was like total Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and doing things, and then that person actually lost time. Like we said, well, you did this and did that, and they said, no, I didn't. I said, no, we have you on camera, you did. So that was kind of scary. It was like, okay, was it a possession? I don't know. Was it just fatigue, overtired? We don't know. But it really, really threw the team for a loop, because we went like, okay, is there any truth to this kind of stuff, possession? I don't truly believe in it, but it kind of makes you think of all the possibilities out there. So that would be probably the most frightening kind of experience, to see somebody suddenly change and start acting a little kind of weird.
And there was no chance that they were having a personal episode of some type that would have caused this? You're confident of that, I assume?
I'm pretty sure. Like we investigated after the fact to find out like what might have caused this, and we just don't really know. It was something that really threw us for a loop, and I'd say more than most of the team was actually afraid of that experience. Like, why did that happen?
Interesting. Best evidence. What's the best evidence you've ever gotten out of one of your cases?
Well, I think the best evidence was probably the window that we caught at the Ottawa jail hostel that opened. We've had that examined by people that are experts in wind effects and negative and positive air pressures in buildings, and they said there's no way that window could have opened by itself. So that would be our probably our greatest visual evidence, because we've actually brought it to people that are specialists in this kind of stuff, and they said no, there's no way that would have opened the wind would have opened the window in that fashion.
Well, what was the lead up to it? What was going on? Where were you investigating in?
We were investigating the Ottawa jail hostel in Ottawa on Nicholas Street, and we had been there about 3-4 times, and I think this was maybe on the third occasion, and we had heard. We had cameras monitoring all the hallways, and we were on the opposite hallway, and we heard a big bang. And we went in the other side of the hallway. We didn't see anything, but we said, well, let's go see on the cameras to see if maybe we caught something. And when we reviewed the cameras, we saw this window open, and it stopped, like really dead stop. Like it didn't open, slam the wall, and come back. It just almost like mechanically stopped. And then it slammed shut, and that was the noise that we heard. So we were investigating the Ottawa jail hostel at the time, and that's where we caught that window opening.
I may have to come up there and join you for one of those investigations.
It might be. I'd like to have you, actually.
Well, and so we can talk about too. In fact, my very first paranormal experience was in the Dade County Jail. I'd just gotten into law enforcement. Hate to say it, it was in 1980. Saw my first full body apparition walking down the. Yeah, I'm older than dirt, no doubt about that.
I wasn't going to say anything, Larry. That's we're probably about the same age, anyways.
Well,
don't date yourself.
Well, listen, we're about ready for to end our time tonight. I want to thank you, Daniel Duchaneaux of G.H.O.S.T, for joining us. I enjoyed our time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll talk again soon, my friend, and I may come up to Ottawa and check you out. We'll talk again soon. Folks, I appreciate you listening to Paranormal Stakeout tonight. I'm Larry Lawson, and we will look forward to seeing you next time on the other side. Have a good night, everybody.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.